You won't believe it, but my own sister ran off with my husband, had his baby, and my parents? They backed her up. So I cut them all off. Now I'm living a life they can only dream about. Hey Reddit, I'm a 27-year-old woman, and today I found myself thinking back on everything that's happened. I realized I've never really opened up about how much my upbringing shaped who I am. So here's the story. I was raised in a typical middle-class home somewhere in the Midwest. Sounds normal, right? But when it came to how love and attention were handed out, my family made it crystal clear who the favorite was, and spoiler alert, it sure wasn't me. My sister Sabrina, she's 30 now, was the golden child. Blonde, bold, and practically worshipped by our parents. Don't get me wrong, she had her strengths, and she deserved praise in some ways. But the way they treated her compared to me? It was like we were living in two separate families. Honestly, I don't think there was a single moment in my childhood where I didn't feel like I was Plan B. Let me paint the picture. When Sabrina wanted ballet lessons, my folks didn't hesitate. They enrolled her in the top dance school around. They'd watch her practices, buy her the prettiest leotards, and reward her with ice cream after every performance. Me? At 10, I begged to take art classes. I loved sketching and thought I might be good at it. But when I asked, my mom just said, "Maybe next year, sweetheart. Things are tight right now." Well, the next year rolled around, and surprise, no art class. Instead, Sabrina got signed up for piano lessons. And birthdays? Oh boy. For Sabrina's sweet 16, they gifted her a car. Not a brand new one, but still, it was hers. Meanwhile, when I turned 16, I didn't even consider asking for anything close to that. I got a grocery store cake and a card that said, "We're so proud of you, Elena." Proud of what exactly? For managing to exist as the invisible daughter? Graduation was no different. When Sabrina graduated high school, they threw a massive celebration, banquet hall, tons of guests, the whole 9 yards. Me? I got a casual backyard cookout that felt more like an obligation than a celebration. My dad actually said, "Well, we already did the big party for Sabrina, so this one's just going to be low-key." What cut even deeper was how college played out. I worked my tail off all through high school, aced every class, volunteered, and got accepted into one of the top programs for fragrance chemistry. Creating custom perfumes had been my dream. I remember the day I told them I got in. I was buzzing with excitement, but their reaction was flat. My mom just said, "That's great, but we can't help much with the costs. Sabrina's MBA still has us stretched." Meanwhile, Sabrina had moved back in after college because she couldn't find a job right away. They bent over backwards to help her, turned the guest room into her mini apartment, paid her bills, and even footed the bill for a coding bootcamp she wanted to try. And me? I was hustling 2 part-time jobs just to stay afloat. No help, no handouts, just grinding on my own, while they cheered Sabrina on like she was an Olympic athlete. Every time I came home, it was like walking into her fan club headquarters. She'd mention she needed clothes for an interview, and Mom would drop everything to take her shopping. I'd save up for months just to buy myself a decent pair of jeans, and Mom would go, "Didn't you just buy clothes recently?" If I asked for a ride while visiting, they'd act like I was asking for a kidney. But when Sabrina wanted to use the car, not a problem at all. They had this bizarre habit of downplaying anything I achieved. I once landed an internship at a local fragrance house, something huge for me, and when I called to tell them, the first thing out of my mom's mouth was, "Oh, that's nice. Did you hear Sabrina has a second interview for that marketing job? Like, cool, but can I have 5 seconds to be proud of myself?" One Christmas really drove the message home. Sabrina got a luxury watch and a custom leather work bag. Me? I opened a pair of socks and a $25 Target gift card. And then Mom had the nerve to say, "We spent the same on both of you." Sure, Mom. Totally. This favoritism wasn't just irritating, it messed with my head. It made me feel like no matter how hard I tried, I'd never be enough. Like I was always just less. Sabrina never seemed to notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. She soaked up the attention while I hovered on the sidelines. Looking back now, I can see just how much it affected me. I pushed myself harder than I needed to, not to impress the world, but just to be seen by my own family. I wanted to feel like I mattered. But if there's one upside to all of it, it's that I learned to depend on myself. I had no safety net. No one to lean on. So I built my own foundation. I don't think my parents meant to be cruel. I think they genuinely believed Sabrina needed more from them, because she was louder, more ambitious, more like what they pictured success looking like. Still, that doesn't excuse it. I'm telling this story because I know I'm not the only one who's ever felt like the runner-up in their own family. And if that's you, you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not alone. Now, fast forward to my final year in college. I was juggling classes, 2 jobs, and an internship. One of those jobs was at this charming little perfume boutique downtown. It wasn't fancy, but I loved being there. Surrounded by beautiful fragrances, getting to play with scent combinations, and helping customers find a signature perfume, it all felt like I was inching closer to my dream. That's when I met Jason. He walked in one afternoon, looking for a custom fragrance for a client. Tall, well-dressed, and confident in that effortless way. At first glance, I pegged him as another rich guy wanting to drop big bucks to show off. But he surprised me. He was genuinely curious, asked real questions about the ingredients, the process of blending scents, and even what inspired my work. Jason and I ended up spending close to an hour that first day, mixing and testing different scent combinations until we landed on the perfect one. When he finally left, I was genuinely surprised by how grounded he was. You could tell he had money, there was no hiding that, but he wasn't flashy or arrogant about it. He came back the following week to pick up the custom fragrance, and instead of just grabbing it and leaving, he stuck around to chat for a bit. Something about that felt different. Before long, he became a regular at the shop. He dropped by to talk, not just about cologne or business, but about life, creativity, ideas. I found out he ran a startup that had recently taken off, but you'd never hear that from him directly. He wasn't the kind of guy who bragged. He was far more interested in hearing about me, my classes, my dreams, my goals. No one had ever taken that kind of genuine interest in me before. Not my parents. Not Sabrina. Not anyone. Eventually, he asked me out. I remember feeling a mix of nerves and disbelief. My life was already a whirlwind with school and 2 jobs. How was I supposed to date someone like him? He was polished, successful, confident, everything I wasn't used to. But somehow, he made me feel completely comfortable. He didn't look down on me for still being a student or for juggling part-time jobs. In fact, he admired how driven I was. He saw something in me, and for the first time, I felt truly seen. Our relationship progressed quickly, but it never felt rushed. It felt right. Jason was supportive in ways I didn't even know I needed. During late-night study sessions, he'd send food so I wouldn't forget to eat. When I was overwhelmed, he'd gently remind me to take breaks, breathe, and take care of myself. He wasn't just a boyfriend, he became my rock, my encourager, my biggest fan. So when he proposed a year later, I was honestly shocked, but in the best way. I knew things were going well, but I didn't expect it so soon. He planned everything down to the tiniest detail: dinner at a rooftop restaurant, candlelight, soft music, the whole romantic setup. When he pulled out the ring, I didn't hesitate. I said yes without blinking. Because for once in my life, I felt like I was finally someone's first choice. Telling my parents, though? That was disappointing, but not surprising. My mom barely reacted to the engagement. Her first comment was, "Well, Jason must be doing pretty well for himself. Hope he's taking care of you." My dad was the same. "At least you won't have to worry about money anymore," he said. Not a word about the proposal, the wedding, or how I was feeling. It was all about Jason, what he had, what he could offer. At our engagement dinner, my mom actually leaned in and whispered, "You know, Jason must have some friends. Sabrina could really use someone like him." I tried to laugh it off, thinking maybe it was just one of her tone-deaf remarks. But nope, it kept happening. Every time we spoke, she'd bring it up. "Have you talked to Jason about introducing Sabrina to anyone? Or, you know, she's had such bad luck with men. Maybe Jason knows someone." It was like she couldn't handle the fact that I had something Sabrina didn't. And when it came to wedding planning? Total nightmare. My mom was way more excited about what Jason's family was contributing than about the wedding itself. She'd say things like, "Well, at least his side is covering the venue. That's generous of them." As if I didn't matter in my own wedding. And then there was Sabrina. Of course, she couldn't let me have one moment to myself. She showed up to the wedding in this flashy, borderline ridiculous dress, like prom night, but worse. Throughout the night, she made a point of schmoozing with Jason's friends and coworkers, acting like she belonged in their world. And the things she said? I still hear them in my head. She'd joke loudly. Wow, Elena really hit the jackpot, huh? Or, Jason must have a thing for hard-working women. Every word felt like a backhanded compliment, jealousy wrapped in fake admiration. For once, I wasn't living in her shadow, and she clearly didn't know how to handle that. She clung to Jason like she was auditioning for a role in his life. Laughing a little too hard at his jokes, always standing just a little too close. At one point during the reception, I saw her cornering him at the bar. My stomach dropped. Later, I asked her casually what they were talking about, and she just shrugged. Oh, nothing. I was just thanking him for being so good to you. Right. Our honeymoon phase was everything I dreamed it would be, just the two of us, happy and in love, but even then, the shadow of my family lingered. My mom wouldn't let it go. She kept bringing up Sabrina. You should really help her meet someone, she'd say. Introduce her to Jason's friends. Maybe he could help. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. Maybe I was too sensitive or reading into things too much. But then I noticed how Sabrina's attitude toward me shifted. She wasn't pretending to be supportive anymore. The snide comments started creeping in. If Jason posted something sweet about me, she'd reply with something like, "Looks like we know who the favorite is now." It wasn't support, it was bitterness. And my parents didn't congratulate me on my happiness. Instead, they acted like I owed them for finally getting something right. I should have listened to my gut. I should have seen what was happening. But back then, I just wanted to enjoy being newly married, even if I had to ignore the cracks that were slowly forming. About a month into our marriage, Sabrina started popping by out of the blue. And by popping by, I don't mean a quick visit. I mean full-on showing up, walking into our place like she owned it. She'd arrive mid-afternoon, dressed like she was heading to a fashion show, heels, designer bags, perfect makeup. We didn't even live in some upscale neighborhood. It was a quiet suburb where most folks wore yoga pants and messy buns. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just wanted to hang out. Maybe she was trying to bond. But no, she wasn't there for me. Every visit, she gravitated toward Jason. She'd linger in the kitchen while he made pasta, his specialty, tossing her head back laughing at his jokes like he was the funniest guy alive. I'll never forget folding laundry one afternoon while overhearing them in the kitchen. Jason was walking her through his bolognese recipe, and her laugh, God, it was loud, theatrical, too much. It wasn't just a friendly chuckle. It was that kind of laugh. The one that twists your stomach because you know it's not really about the joke. I brought it up to Jason, trying to sound light about it. I said something like, "Hey, I love that she's around, but maybe she's visiting a little too often." He just shrugged. "She's your sister. She's probably just lonely." Lonely? No, Sabrina wasn't lonely. She was bored. And there's a big difference. Things went downhill fast when she started showing up more and more. One night, I came home from work and found her curled up on the couch with Jason, casually eating takeout from our favorite restaurant, like they were on some cozy little date. When I asked what she was doing there, she just smiled like it was no big deal and said, "Oh, I was in the area and thought I'd keep Jason company while you were working late." That was the moment things started clicking into place. I began noticing the subtle, but constant, physical touches, straightening his tie, brushing imaginary lint off his shoulder, leaning in way too close during conversations. Jason didn't say anything. If he noticed, he didn't act like it. Or maybe he just didn't want to admit it. Then came the night everything shattered. I had just finished a long, draining shift at the boutique. I walked into the house and immediately heard laughter coming from the kitchen. Sabrina's laugh. That laugh. I stood frozen in the hallway, listening. Eventually, I forced myself to walk in. And there they were, Sabrina perched on a barstool, leaning forward like she was the star of a romantic comedy, and Jason standing across from her with that dopey smile on his face. I don't even remember what they were talking about. The words didn't matter. What hit me was the way they looked at each other. And how my heart dropped when I saw it. Later that night, I confronted him. I asked, "What's going on between you and Sabrina?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. What do you mean? She's your sister. Exactly. So why does it feel like she's here for you and not me? I asked. He brushed it off. Told me I was overreacting, paranoid. Said Sabrina was just being friendly. That I needed to relax. But deep down, I knew something was seriously wrong. Then came the final blow. A few weeks later, Jason started coming home late. Always with some excuse, client meetings, dinners, errands. One night he came back close to midnight, and the moment he walked through the door, I knew. He smelled like perfume, something sweet and floral. Jasmine and vanilla. And I knew it wasn't one of mine. I didn't even have to ask. He confessed before I said a word. Elena, he said. Sabrina and we're in love. In love. Those two words hit me like a truck. My husband. My sister. I could barely breathe. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How? When? Why? I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stood there, numb, while he fumbled through some half-hearted explanation. It just happened, he said. We didn't mean for it to. It felt like my whole life had just gone up in flames. The next morning, I called my parents. I didn't know what else to do. I needed somewhere to crash while I figured out what the hell to do with my life. My mom picked up. I poured my heart out. Told her everything. And when I asked if I could stay with them for a little while, she hesitated. Oh honey, I wish I could say yes, she said. But the house is under renovation right now. It's a mess. Renovation? They'd lived in that house for 20 years without fixing a single thing. So I called my dad. And guess what? Same story. It's just not a good time, sweetheart. You know how things are. I hung up and stared at the wall in silence. Not shocked. Just shattered. It wasn't just Jason and Sabrina who betrayed me. My parents turned their backs on me too. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. That night, I slept in our guest bedroom, alone, scrolling through apartment listings I couldn't afford and wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. For weeks, I replayed everything. Every interaction. Every red flag. And that's when I finally saw it. My parents knew. They had known all along. They weren't clueless. They had supported it. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I mean, who would? But the evidence was all there. The weird way they avoided my calls. My mom's sudden excuse about the house. My dad's dodgy tone. It all made sense now. They weren't protecting me. They were shielding her. Their golden child. The one who could do no wrong, even when she tore my life apart. They didn't want me moving in because it would have made things uncomfortable. Messy. They chose her comfort over my pain. So, I filed for divorce. And because of the prenup Jason had me sign, just a formality, he said, I walked away with nothing. After everything collapsed, I reached out to Jason's parents. I wasn't trying to start drama. I just wanted to explain what had happened and maybe feel less crazy. His mom was actually kind. She told me, quietly, that she'd never trusted Sabrina. Said she always had a bad feeling about her. But Jason didn't see it that way. When he found out I had contacted his family, he flipped. Accused me of turning them against him. Said I was trying to ruin his reputation. As if I was the one who brought this all crashing down. And if that wasn't enough, Jason decided to hit me where it hurt most, my career. I showed up to work one morning, thinking it was just another shift at the boutique. Instead, I was called into the office. My manager couldn't even look me in the eye. She handed me my final paycheck and mumbled something about restructuring. I was stunned. It didn't add up. Not until a coworker pulled me aside later and said, Jason talked to the owner. Said you were bringing drama? Bad for business. I was beyond furious. I wanted to storm into his office and scream, demand answers, but I didn't. What was the point? He'd already taken enough from me. So I went back to my tiny apartment, new, empty, cold, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls. Rent was due soon, and I didn't have a job. My marriage, my family, my career, it all slipped through my fingers like sand. It felt like the universe had ripped away everything I had fought so hard to build. And then, one evening, after way too much doom scrolling on Instagram, staring at pictures of people living lives I couldn't even begin to afford. Something just clicked. I came across this post about a woman who'd started her own candle business from her tiny kitchen. She talked about how she took a risk, chased a passion, and built something out of nothing. I stared at that post for a long minute, just holding my phone and thinking, why not me? I'd always dreamed of launching my own perfume line. But I'd been putting it off, telling myself I wasn't ready, that it wasn't the right time. But if there was ever a moment to take a chance, it was now. I had nothing left to lose. So I did it. I applied for a small loan, just enough to cover materials, and poured the last of my savings into getting started. My apartment turned into a makeshift lab/office. Bottles, labels, raw ingredients, my entire living space smelled like a garden exploded, and honestly, I loved it. Word started to get around. One day, a beauty blogger with a decent following posted a glowing review. She called my scents fresh, daring, and completely unique. Overnight, my Instagram exploded. That second year was a game changer. I started getting messages from small boutiques asking to stock my perfumes. I took a leap and rented a modest studio in town, nothing fancy, just enough space to work and meet with clients. It was mine. Eventually, I hired an assistant, Tessa, to help with orders and emails. By the end of that year, I was actually turning a profit. Not just scraping by, but truly building something sustainable. I could breathe again. My fragrances were being featured in indie magazines, lifestyle blogs, and orders started rolling in from across the country. But more than the money or the growth, it was mine. Every bottle I made was a quiet little victory, a reminder that I could rise out of the ashes of what they left behind and build something beautiful on my own terms. Then came that one rainy, gray afternoon. I was in the studio, packaging an order for a boutique in Seattle. Tessa had stepped out for a coffee run, and I was half lost in thought when I heard the bell on the door ring. I didn't even look up at first, figured it was just Tessa coming back or a customer dropping in to browse. But it wasn't. It was her. Sabrina. And she was holding a baby. I just froze. My body went stiff like I'd seen a ghost. She looked completely wrecked, messy bun, puffy eyes, soaked jacket, the whole. Life hit me like a train. Look. The baby in her arms was bundled up in a onesie that had definitely seen better days. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. Why the hell would she be here? But no, it was real. Elena, she said, voice trembling. I didn't know where else to go. I stared at her. It had been 2 years since I'd seen her. The last time was some family gathering, her and Jason acting like royalty, like they'd won. And now? Now she looked like she'd lost everything. What do you want, Sabrina? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She shifted the baby on her hip and gave me this pitiful, broken look. I need help, she whispered. Jason left. I have no one else. I almost laughed. Jason left her? Color me shocked. Jason left you? I said, raising a brow. Wow. Who could have seen that coming? She flinched, but didn't argue. I know I've made mistakes, she said quietly. I know I hurt you. But I'm desperate. I can't do this alone. And then she said it. This is your nephew. Don't you want to meet him? I glanced at the baby. He looked innocent. Helpless. But when I looked back at her, the woman who wrecked my life without blinking, whatever sympathy I had vanished. Why don't you call Jason? I said flatly. He's the father, right? Her face turned bright red, and she stammered. Well, no. He's not. Of course he wasn't. The truth came out in pieces. Turns out, the fairy tale fell apart real fast. Jason was rich, sure, but also controlling. Cold. Not the prince she imagined. So she cheated on him. Funded her lifestyle, designer bags, lavish vacations, by draining his accounts behind his back. And when he found out, he left. Cut her off completely. She'd been faking the perfect life ever since, reposting old vacation pics, wearing borrowed designer clothes. But you can only keep up a lie for so long. Now, here she was. Shattered. Elena, please, she sobbed. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I have nothing. No money, no home. I'm begging you. I just stared at her. Every part of me wanted to scream, Are you serious? The same woman who took my husband, laughed at my pain, and treated me like I was disposable, was now in my studio, begging me to save her? You've got some nerve, I said. You didn't care about me or my life when you were tearing it apart. But now that it's convenient, you want my help? She broke down, full on sobbing. But I didn't feel bad. I'd seen this show before. Sabrina knew how to cry when it got her what she wanted. I don't have anywhere else to go, she said again. Not my problem, I replied. You made your choices. Go to Mom and Dad. They'll take you in. I walked over, opened the door, and motioned for her to leave. She just stood there, frozen, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. But I didn't move. I wasn't going to. Eventually, she pulled the baby close and walked out into the rain without saying another word. As the door clicked shut behind her, I stood there for a long moment, letting it all sink in. I didn't feel sorry for her. Maybe a little for the baby, but not for her. I sat back down at my desk and tried to focus. But my mind kept spinning. 2 years ago, seeing her like that would have wrecked me. Today, I felt free. I don't owe her a thing. Sabrina made her choices. She can live with them. I've spent way too much of my life cleaning up after her, and I'm done. I've always believed in karma. Maybe it doesn't show up on schedule, but eventually, it catches up. And in this case, karma didn't hold back, not one bit. It came for Sabrina, it came for Jason, and yeah, even my parents. Jason's business nosedived so fast, it was like watching a sled fly downhill in the middle of January. After he dumped Sabrina, she didn't go quietly. Nope, she dragged him across every corner of social media. She posted long-winded, dramatic monologues about how he was controlling, how he emotionally manipulated her, how he ruined her life. Funny how she left out the parts about cheating on him and draining his bank account. But the thing is, people talk. Especially in his industry. Word spread and fast. Investors pulled out. Business partners stopped returning his calls. His image took a hit, and once that happened, there was no saving face. He wasn't the polished, perfect man he tried to portray. And people finally saw through it. Last I heard, he sold his company at a huge loss, just enough to clear his debts and walk away. Then, one afternoon, he had the nerve to show up at my studio. I was in the middle of testing a new blend, something earthy with a hint of cedar, when the bell above the door rang. And there he was. He looked worn out. Not the confident guy I used to know. More like someone who hadn't slept in days. He tried to ease in with small talk, like we were old friends catching up. Then it came. I made a mistake, Elena. I didn't realize what I had, until I lost it. He started rambling about Sabrina, how she wrecked his life, how things were so much better with me, how he hoped we could try again. I didn't even let him finish. Jason, I said calm and clear, I've built an entirely new life. And there's no room for you in it. Then I showed him the door. The audacity of that man, I swear. Sabrina? She ended up in a tiny apartment in a part of town she used to mock. She works at a call center now, the kind of job she once said was for people without ambition. Most of her time is spent online, posting bitter rants and blaming the world for her problems. Not once has she taken responsibility. And yet, she still tries to act superior. Every now and then, I'll see one of her posts floating around, passive-aggressive quotes like, "Some people get everything handed to them. Must be nice." It's almost funny in a sad way. My parents didn't get away clean either. When Sabrina's world started crumbling, they did what they always did, ran to rescue her. They sold the house they'd lived in for over 2 decades just to cover her debts. Now they're crammed into a little condo on the edge of town. My dad delivers groceries part-time to make ends meet. My mom's doing alterations from their living room. They've never once picked up the phone to apologize. Not once. Instead, I get these guilt-laced emails every now and then. "Family is everything, Elena." Or, "You should reach out sometime. Life's too short to stay angry." But I'm not angry anymore. I just don't feel bad. Not for them. Not for any of them. As for me? Things have never been better. My business is thriving. I opened my very first storefront in Chicago, a cozy little space with plants in the windows and walls lined with bottles of carefully crafted scents. People come in from all over. They're drawn by the personalized experience, the heart I put into every bottle. And yeah, it feels damn good. On the personal side, I've moved on in the most beautiful way. I'm engaged again, this time to Ryan. He's kind, steady, and everything Jason wasn't. We're planning a small wedding next spring, nothing huge, just the people who actually care. The people who chose me. We even joke that our reception's going to smell better than most high-end boutiques, because of course, I'm blending a signature scent just for the day. Anyway, that's my story. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: life gets better when you stop trying to fix broken people and start investing in yourself. The peace, the progress, the success, it all came after I walked away from the mess. I wouldn't change a single thing. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every lonely night led me here. Thanks for listening, Reddit. You've been my therapy session today. And honestly, I'm doing just fine.